So in order for an investigation to happen, naturally a report needs to be received. And one of the things that we kind of hear a lot is that there's a lack potentially of employee confidence in speaking up and making reports. So Neil, what would you say that organisations need to do in order to kind of instill confidence and trust in the systems they've got in place?
I think there's a number of things behind that. There are cultural aspects of it, what an organisation does before you just promote the whistleblower line. Is there a culture in the organisation of people feeling that they can challenge authority, for example, and speak confidently if they disagree with situations within an organisation? That culture's there of openness, transparency, then people are more likely to feel that they can trust in the whistleblowing line. And then operationally, with a whistleblowing line, there's certain expectations law enforcement will have, regulators will have, and best practice informs it as well. So if you have a whistleblowing line where someone has to spend an awful lot of money calling up from abroad to access it, that might not be accessible enough. If they can't speak to someone, if they're working internationally in their own language, that can also be a barrier. So there's lots of operational aspects of it we can talk about as well. I suppose what law enforcement would really want to understand is, can people report anonymously? And is the company taking measures, once it has a whistleblowing service, to check whether people are aware of that service and whether they feel comfortable using it? So perception type surveys that can be useful to check that people are comfortable. So it's a whole range of things, cultural, operational, monitoring it's working properly.
Thank you. So Tim, you've worked with lots of organisations in implementing these sorts of systems. Was there anything that you think is particularly effective or ineffective, conversely?
Well, on the effective side of things first, you have to be particularly careful in the different cultures that you may be working with, and different organisations will have different cultures within an organisation. Many global organisations these days, one day you could be taking a whistleblowing report from somebody in the UK and from the same organisation. The next day it could be from a migrant worker working in a different part of the world. So operationally, systems need to be able to manage that difference. So for example, migrant workers are sometimes a little tentative about reporting, so you have to make that process very simple. Be able to report in their own language, be able to get to speak to somebody quickly. You don't want them standing on the telephone perhaps feeling exposed, whereas conversely, if you're speaking to somebody from within the UK, from an organisation that very positively promotes the speak up culture, well then that's a more straightforward process. So you do need to be very culturally aware of what's happening with your whistleblowers.
Anything that you'd like to add, Dennis?
Just add on for the speak up culture, I think a lot of organisations have tried to make the whistleblowing policy come to life. And I think that's where the confidence is engendered in an individual who feels the organisation is trying not just to promote the whistleblowing policy, but to promote the employees to report wrong things that potentially could be wrongdoing before they become something worse. And if they see that, I think that gives them confidence to report, whether it's in person or whether it's anonymous as well. I think as well, when we talk, which Neil mentioned there a little bit about anonymous reports, I think it's crucial that companies do investigate anonymous reports and then feed back and try to, I suppose, keep engaging with that anonymous reporter to try bring them out to be named, to give them sort of more, I suppose, confidence to make up, to come forward with their concerns, and gives more credibility to what they're saying as well. But again, that's a journey through that cultural change to give them confidence.
Maybe one thing we could talk about is the role of senior leaders in an organisation. And I've certainly found organisations with successful implementation of a speak up policy and a speak up hotline will have senior leaders talk authentically about how people coming forward with reports have helped the organisation, have helped the organisation improve, and that candour and openness all the way up to the top can help support people and engender a sense of trust.
I think that's a really interesting point, because we recently conducted a survey, and the feedback on the survey was that a large percentage of employees didn't trust that their leaders would act on a report that was made. And so we were looking at kind of how can we sort of work with senior leaders, because interestingly the senior leaders were saying they absolutely would act on the report, but that wasn't kind of flowing through the organisation. So I think that walking the walk is really important, and I think that a lot of organisations struggle with kind of getting that message across. I think there's some really interesting points that you've all made there, and I think that promotion of the system, regardless of whether it's internal or external, however they decide to do it, is really important, because ultimately, the more people have confidence that it's okay to speak up and that they're being told it's okay, the more likely they are to talk about what's going on. So yeah, thank you very much for that.